And how are you doing? You're in Tampa, right?
Yes, I am outside
Yeah.
of Tampa. Yep.
Or in the Tampa area?
Yeah, in the Tampa area where it is getting hot, hot, and hotter.
Ooh,
So it's
man.
awesome. And my oldest reminded me the other day, he said, "Is it starting to be hurricane season?" I said, "Technically, hurricane season starts in June, but we don't really start monitoring until like August and September, which is
Hmm.
when it kind of gets pretty dicey."
Heavy? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember last year when we did our event in Tampa, there was a lot of especially people coming out, including us. We're like, "Oh, wait, are we gonna be stuck?"
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But but then I didn't realize how beautiful Tampa is. I really
Oh
liked.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm like,
It's
oh
the
man, this is
best.
great.
I know. I
Yeah,
never want to leave. I'm like, we should just stay here for the whole time. So,
yeah, no, it was beautiful. I enjoyed my time there. I think because I had gone from Phoenix, I didn't come home. I went straight to Tampa. So I made sure to pack extra clothes. And I got there early before my team got there, and um it was great. I walked around. I don't know what area I was in, but
I
whatever
think
area
I
it
think
was.
they had it downtown because they had it by like the
Okay.
conference center.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's like
Yeah.
downtown
So I
Tampa.
walked around, and it was I forgot it was Halloween, and I saw a bunch of people with costumes, and I was trying to get
Yeah.
a bite to eat, and I'm like,
There's a
that was
lot going
funny.
on. There's always a lot of festivals. There's always a lot of concerts and events and things like that. I think they just mentioned that they either posted or they're going to post soon the NFL schedule. And I know that Rob and I had talked about maybe having him take Otto to a Bucks game this year
Hmm.
because Otto's been really into football. And we took them to Monster Jam
Hmm.
earlier this year, which was at Raymond James at the Buck Stadium. And Otto was more excited seeing all of the football stuff in the pirate ship than he was about the monster trucks. I mean, once they started, of course, he changed his tune, but initially he was like, "There's Baker Mayfield. There's the Pirates there. The Bucks Stadium. There's the ship." I was like, "All right, chill out."
Yeah.
So I think that that would be super fun to have them go. I'd love for us to all go, but I don't know if Vin will sit through a whole football game, and I'm not paying
Yeah.
money to be like, "Okay, we're in the first quarter, and then let's leave," because
Yeah,
I want to
exactly.
sit and watch the whole thing.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
we'll see.
Yeah, no, yeah. We're probably gonna be out there again this year, so I will keep you posted on that. Since you're close by.
Hmm.
So it's always great. And we're now live on our Facebook and our YouTube, LinkedIn channel. So welcome everybody, welcome. And also if you're joining us here on the Zoom platform, welcome. Today, my name is Vicente, and I'm the sales manager here at Latino Tax Pro. And today we have our good friend and partners from Gleim and representing Gleim, Miss Courtney. And we're going to be talking about something that I get asked a lot. What are the benefits? Why should I become an enrolled agent? So we thought this would be a great opportunity for Courtney to come in and explain the benefits of becoming an enrolled agent. And also, if we are you going to go over your system, Courtney?
Yeah, I
Oh
will touch
yeah,
on some
we're gonna
features.
yeah, we definitely want to see the features. They're great. I just learned something yesterday. I think I'll let you cover that. I don't want to give it away. In case you notice, yeah, I am a user too. So, but Courtney, do you mind introducing yourself to our friends and our viewers out here that don't know you yet, but may have seen you at the fest last year? I know you were there, but yeah, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So Vicente, thank you so much for inviting me to talk with today. As he mentioned, we've worked together for a long time, a few years now,
Hmm.
actually, which has been great. Gleim is based in Gainesville, Florida, and I'm coming to you from my home office just outside of Gainesville, Florida. My name is Courtney Sefjack, and I am a senior account manager here with Gleim. September of this year will be 15 years that I've been here
Wow.
with Gleim, which is crazy.
Yeah.
There's been a lot that has changed at Gleim since I started, as far as our course materials go, but with all of the different exams and things too. So I loved that, Vicente asked me to come today and talk with everybody about the enrolled agent because you guys are part of a very large special organization at Latino Tax Pros. And, some of you may already be enrolled agents, some may be on the path to becoming enrolled agents. And so we kind of wanted to, talk about what an enrolled agent is and why it's awesome to become one if you aren't already.
Yeah, exactly. And especially right now with all the changes, and one of the things that we've always expressed here at Latino Tax Pro is always saying, hey, if you're gonna make this a career, you might as well go all the way and become an enrolled agent and see all these benefits that you unlock once you become an enrolled agent. And if this is what you're thinking of why I should become an enrolled agent or what are the benefits or even what is an enrolled agent? What's that designation? That's why we have Miss Courtney here today to help us with that. So, Courtney, I know you have a presentation for us. While you have that up, I'm going to invite everybody in the audience to submit your questions. Whether it's if you're here on the Zoom, you can put it in the Q&A box, or if you're following us in one of our social media platforms, whether it's YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, put it in the comment section, and I will read out those questions to Courtney. We're going to address these questions at the end, so make sure you put them in the Q&A or in the other chat box, and I will read them out at the end of the presentation. And with that said, Miss Courtney, the mic is all yours.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you. Wow, we are spanning lots of social media platforms today, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Reaching everybody. Isn't it so amazing what happens with technology from when we've been just a few years ago to now? It's amazing. That being said, I know I said at the start of the introduction that we have, really done a lot with our course since I started 15 years ago. And that's probably going to continue each and every year as, advances in technology are made. We're always constantly improving our resources to make sure that we provide the best study sessions for everyone planning to pursue the exam, because our goal is that you pass the exams the first time you take them. And hopefully that should be your goal too, right? So I did want to kind of just start with a little bit of background on Gleim. But before I get to that, I am including an option for a scholarship for a free section of our EA premium system. We always love to give things away. And so if any of you all have your phone handy and you want to scan the QR code, I mean, I think we're all kind of attached to our phones nowadays anyway, but you have the option to scan there, and I will be announcing the winner next week after I get all of those results in. And I can pull this back up later on in the presentation if we need to do that as well. But I'm also going to talk about what the EA Premium Review System entails. As Vicente mentioned earlier, there's lots of great tools and resources in there. So we want you to know what you're registering to win, right? So with Gleim, Dr. Gleim's vision, 50 years ago, 51 now as we're moving into this year. Last year, we celebrated 50 years because Dr. Gleim had wrote the first CPA self-study book in 1974, which is crazy. He was an accounting professor at the University of Florida. So Gleim is based in Gainesville, Florida. And at that time for accounting, the CPA exam was a very elite exam. Only, the elite of the elite could take it. It wasn't attainable to everyone. And Dr. Gleim, being an accounting professor and a pioneer, said, I'm going to change that, wrote the first self-study book. And then from there, the rest is history, as they say. In 1980, he developed the world's first CIA, Certified Internal Auditor Review course. Shortly after that, the CMA, the Certified Management Accountants. In 1999, the EA, the Enrolled Agent, which is what we're talking about today, was launched. And then just last year, we launched new study materials for the FMAA exam, which is the Financial and Managerial Accounting Associate. That is actually a new designation from the IMA, the same organization that offers the CMA. So as you can see, we've got a lot of information here, a lot of different resources. So you could start with the EA and then pursue all the others, or start and stop with the EA. The kind of path is yours. But the goal here is that you can see Gleim has kind of started with education and just kind of moved on from there. So it's definitely important to us that we help individuals achieve their goals. So the enrolled agent exam, what is the EA? It is actually the only federal license for practitioners specializing in taxation. So what that means is, as a tax preparer, you are able to prepare taxes, yes, of course, but as an enrolled agent, you are a licensed tax expert. You have unlimited rights to represent your clients before the IRS, which is a very powerful thing to hold. The only other two individuals that are able to do that are CPAs and attorneys. So that's pretty impressive. It's the highest credential awarded by the IRS, and you're able to help your taxpayers with lots of different issues: estate tax, gift tax, income taxes. You're there for their beck and call for everything that they need, right? You're definitely helping them with your knowledge and expertise in whatever they need. You have increased representation rights to better serve your clients. It'll know that a lot of individuals that may start as tax preparers will come on to then become enrolled agents. We've also seen certified financial planners pursue their enrolled agent because it gives them another option, something else to list in their portfolio as options and resources to help their clients. So there are lots of really great avenues available and benefits to becoming an enrolled agent. So some of those benefits, as we say, the benefits are worth it. Definitely increased salary. Money is usually a motivating factor for a lot of folks, and you're earning a good wage as a tax preparer, but why not earn a better wage as a licensed tax expert or an enrolled agent, right? So we kind of wanted to show the differentiation here between the enrolled agent salary versus the tax preparer salary. Now, of course, this is all relative depending on location, but this is an average of what you can expect to see. Obviously, there is that increase in salary. You're also able to expand your client base. So you have a lot more knowledge and expertise. So you're able to pick up a lot more clients. Most of the time, you're going to be working with individuals and preparing individualized tax returns, but you'll have the knowledge to work with businesses and corporations as well to do some of those more complicated tax returns. So you're definitely going to be able to kind of expand. And with this being a national license, no boundaries, no borders, as we say, you can pick up and move whenever you'd like. So I mentioned that I'm here in Florida. If I was an enrolled agent, I could certainly practice and build my clientele base here in Florida. But then if I wanted to pick up and move out across the states to California or move to Nebraska or Maine, wherever I want to go, I don't have to transfer my license over. I'm an enrolled agent in all of those places, and I can continue to build my clientele portfolio in all of those places because with it being tax is tax, you don't have to worry about moving into different areas. You're able to kind of keep that clientele base as you move. We mention a wide range of opportunities because you have a lot of different options as an enrolled agent. So one of those would be a lot of times you're starting out working for a tax office. Think of like an H&R Block or a Jackson Hewitt or a Liberty Tax. You may also work in different government agencies doing taxation. A lot of big firms, top 4 accounting firms, have started hiring enrolled agents on staff because of the value that they bring as a licensed tax expert. Of course, they still have CPAs on staff and they may have CIAs and CMAs, but you're able to actually work in those main tax offices as an enrolled agent. And then many that have been practicing for quite a long time own their own tax business. And who doesn't want to be their own boss as an entrepreneur, right? So you have the freedom and flexibility to own your own tax practice. Some have opened other different franchises. The sky's kind of the limit there. I don't think we are moving away from paying taxes at any time soon, which is sad for all of us taxpayers, but great for enrolled agents, right? You're not also just working during tax season, which is actually a false understanding that I had when I first started at Gleim. I thought that tax season was just tax season, January through April, right? Once the deadline hits, you're done. You've got the whole rest of the year off to coast. And that is definitely not true. I think all of the enrolled agents will say there's no way that that is true. There's lots of extensions that keep them busy. There's a big deadline that's in October. And again, I mentioned working with those big corporations and big businesses. That is year-round work. So you're definitely going to be busy, the entire year. Of course, you will have some vacation time that you can take, and with more income, you're able to take a little bit more lavish or more vacations if you wanted, right? Never a bad thing. So to become an enrolled agent, this is interesting because there are no education or experience requirements. So some of the other certification exams that I mentioned at the beginning, the CPA, CMA, things like that, there are education and experience requirements that you need to meet before you can obtain those letters. That is not true with the enrolled agent, but that doesn't mean the exam is easy. You definitely still need to prepare with a trusted provider like Gleim to make sure you can get through all of the information and pass each part of the exam, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But it's nice to know that you don't have to jump through those hoops before you're ready to get started. You do need to have your PTIN, your preparer tax identification number. And if you're preparing taxes, then you already have your PTIN. So that's a good step to have the box checked off. If you do not have your PTIN, it is fairly simple to obtain, hopping onto the IRS website, filling out your online application, and then paying your fee. You do have to pass all three parts of the EA exam. There are three parts, and you have to pass those within 3 years. Now, that 3-year time frame starts from the date that you take and pass your first part, and then you have 3 years after that date to pass the other two. Once you've passed all three parts, you need to apply for enrollment. So essentially, you're going online, submitting your form, paying a fee. There is a background and suitability check. And then once that is all done and complete, you're a licensed enrolled agent, which is fantastic. You do have to maintain that license with continuing professional education. Gleim will actually help you with that with our premium system. We include that in that package where you get those CE hours that you need. You have to complete a minimum of 16 a year, two of those which needs to be in ethics. And then I believe it's 72 for all 3 years, 72 hours in 3 years, 16 minimum. So obviously 16 times 3 does not equate to 72, but as long as you're doing at least your 16 and then you go a little bit over, you should be in good shape. And you can obviously obtain those continuing professional education hours in a variety of ways, either from those that Gleim provides to you with your enrolled agent package. You might have your employer that provides CE, or you may get to obtain them going to different conferences and events, which is also a really fun way to obtain that CPE because you're networking with other like-minded individuals in the same space, right? So a lot of great networking opportunities that come along there. So scheduling your exam, the exams are offered at Prometric, and you'll need to create your account with Prometric. Now, there's a difference between registering for the exam and scheduling your exam. So when you register for the exam at Prometric, you're essentially telling Prometric, I'm planning to take part one soon. And once you register, you do have to schedule your exam date within a year of that date. So if I were to register today, May 14th, I would need to schedule my exam by May 13th of next year. Once you schedule your exam, that is when you actually pick your testing location, you pay your exam fee, and you choose your date and time. So scheduling is when you're involved with paying for your exam fee, not when you're registering for the exam. We typically encourage candidates to schedule your exam at least 30 days out. That typically ensures that you're getting the date, the time, and the location that you want. That's usually not problematic unless it's close to the end of a testing window. And I will talk about those testing windows here in just a moment. So I mentioned that there are three parts to the exam: part one, part two, and part three. Part one covers individuals, part two covers businesses, and part three covers representation practices and procedures. So you can see here, we kind of have them listed out based on the number of question items that are coming from each topic area. So you'll see in part one, for example, the highest level, kind of a tie, income and assets, deductions and credits. You're also going to be testing on things like gift and estate tax, basis. So those of you that have been preparing taxes for a while, or if you are maybe students still in college, I don't know where you all are coming from in your spans of your life, but tax preparers, individual or students in school that have taken like a tax one class, if you've participated in VITA, the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, that information is going to be present on part one. So it should be a nice, easy transition in. They are going to cover some more in-depth topics and maybe things that you don't do on the day-to-day, but that's what the review course is there for. It'll help to supplement and fill in any of those gaps. Part two, covering the business, is going to cover more of the topic areas that aren't normally encountered by individuals in preparing taxes. So that's going to be like your S corps, your entities, specialized returns. That's typically the most difficult part for candidates on this exam, part two, just because it's foreign. It's not something that they deal with often, but it's also the largest out of all three parts. And it's, of course, harder to learn and understand 20 topics than it is to learn and understand 7, right? Part three is covering the representation practices and procedures. That is going to be your practice before the IRS, ethics, Circular 230. You see filing process here. So that's going to cover all of that information. And that typically tends to be a relatively easy section for candidates sitting for the exam. So you can take these parts in any order. The IRS and Gleim typically encourage you to take them in sequential order, which means you'll be starting with part one. For some of the reasons that I just mentioned, having a little bit of background in those areas certainly helps transition into the exam. We have seen folks start with part three because it's the smallest part, and then it kind of gives you a confidence boost passing that part three and then moving on to part one and part two. You could start with part two if you wanted. That's normally a less common pursued path, but that doesn't mean that you can't forge your own way, right? I've actually heard some folks say that they thought part two was the easiest for them. That really just means that they studied the hardest for that part. But as long as you're passing them, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, right? So as we're going through and talking about the exam, I'm going to kind of slip in some different little study tips and knowledge nuggets, as we'll call them too. So these question item areas that are listed out here. I mentioned, 37 questions if we're looking at part two for business tax preparation, 26 questions in practices and procedures. One study strategy may be to look at those areas and try to focus or start there. And then if you get to some of the lesser valued areas, like for example, if we don't make it to advising the individual taxpayer in part one, that's quite all right. It's only 11 questions. That is not a good study strategy, we'll tell you from talking with candidates that have taken the exam. And to be honest with you, you don't need to do that. Within the Gleim system that I'll talk about a little bit later on those different features and things, we kind of take that guesswork out for you and help to streamline your studies. But you do not know what is going to be tested on the exam. So it's better to be knowledgeable in all of these areas so that you are well prepared for anything that you see on the prometric exam than to, forego some of your study areas to shorten study time so that you're, making sure that you're kind of cutting corners and you can study some of those higher tested areas. That's actually not led to success on the exam, as we've seen from candidates. So we definitely don't encourage you to use that as a study pattern, but it is helpful to know with this where these topic areas are represented on the exam, which is why they're included. So the exam breakdown itself, I had mentioned aiming to look to schedule maybe 30 days out before you sit for the exam. There are testing windows, but the exam is closed in March and April. So we've just left that closed testing window and the window reopened effective May 1st. So this current testing window will run through the end of February next year, 2026, and it will test on our 2025 edition content, which we just released. That tests on the prior tax year. So you're going to be testing on 2024 tax year stuff. Sounds a little backwards, but I mean, we don't know what lies ahead in the future tax laws, right? And what changes are going to be upcoming. And we need to be able to make sure that we can test on them and provide study materials for them. So sounds a little backwards, but that's the way that's the way that it's rolling. There is no testing, like I said, in March and April, and then you have 3 years to pass all 3 parts. So we have had some folks want to get started right after tax season, get started studying, now, middle of May, and then plan to have all 3 parts passed by the end of the year. That is doable. I know it might sound a little crazy town to some, but it is totally possible. On average, part one is around 55 hours to study. Part two, I mentioned, was a little bit larger. So on average, that's around 80 hours. And then part three tends to be around 35 hours. So if you're breaking that down into weekly study time, think 10 to 15 hours a week, which is manageable, you would definitely be able to start planning your 55 hours, 10 hours a week. That should be about 5 or 6 weeks for part one. You're going to be around 7, 8 weeks for part two, and probably 2, 3 weeks for part three. So, I mean, if you're taking them out and spacing them, you can certainly make sure that you're checking all of those and getting them all done. But if you need a slower paced schedule, which is totally fine, that's why they give you the 3 years to pass all three parts, right? But just remember that that timer starts ticking after you pass that first exam. Good news is taking the Prometric, they will tell you right then and there whether you've passed or not. So you don't have to wait for scores to come in, you know, that very day. And the exam is all multiple choice questions. So you don't have to tackle any, long, word problems or essays or scenarios or simulations. It's all multiple choice. Now, again, that doesn't mean that those multiple choice questions are easy. They will write them in ways to trick you. So some more study tips and strategies that we give. You're typically reading the end of the question first, so you know what they're asking you, going back to the beginning, rereading the question in its entirety, and then reading every single answer choice, A, B, C, and D. It's possible that if you're looking at B and you're like, yep, that's it, and you move on, it's possible that maybe D was a better option. And you'll see that in the Gleim system as well when we break out our questions and how things are broken down. If you are going back through that review and you get those aha moments, like, oh, I know that was D and I picked B, you're moving a little bit too fast and you need to take the time to read all of your questions through. So each part is 100 multiple choice questions, and they give you 3.5 hours to complete all 100 multiple choice questions. We want you at about 1.5 to 2 minutes per question. When you're at peak testing time, you're not going to be in 1.5 to 2 minutes when you first start studying, and that is completely fine. Nobody starts at that level, but it gives you an opportunity to work up to that level. And all of that is tracked in the system so you know and can see your time improving. But 100 multiple choice questions is broken into two sections. So section one has your 50 multiple choice questions. Then you're given an optional 15-minute break where you are not penalized if you get up and decide to take said break, or you can power through into section two and then complete your last 50 multiple choice questions. It's important to note that once you leave that first section, you cannot go back into it. So once you've submitted section one and you're moving on to section two and you're on question 54 and you're like, oh, I meant to go back and change question 10. That ship has sailed and you can't move back in. So what we encourage you to do is to answer every single question, not penalized for guessing. Answer every single question. If you're unsure, flag it. And then before you leave that first section, you can go back to those flagged questions, leave it as is, or make your changes then before you move on. So that is the best way we have found with candidates to go through the exam and make sure that they are answering every single question. There will also be some questions in there that may look like, where the heck did this come from? I don't remember seeing this anywhere in my study materials. And those are what they call throwaway questions or testing questions. So periodically on all the different certification exams, they will write these new questions and bury them in, sprinkle them in to the exam questions that do count, just to see if they're going to be using them for future exams. So if you get a question like that, do your best to answer it, of course, because you never know. But if it's truly I have no idea where that came from, 9 times out of 10, it's a test question that they're testing out. So don't get too down and out if you didn't answer it or didn't know it. So I talked about the enrolled agent, the benefits of becoming an enrolled agent, how to become an enrolled agent. And I mentioned that I would talk a little bit about the Gleim system as well. So this is a screen snippet of our premium review system. And we've got a lot of things going on in here, right? So first, we include study recommendations all throughout the course. As I mentioned, through some of the different screens that we went through talking about how to apply, what's covered on the exam. We were sprinkling in some different tips and strategies on the exam, right? We do that in the course as well, giving you study recommendations to make sure that you're going through all of the information and you're getting the most out of the studies. We have on that linear line, you can see there step 1, 2, all the way through to step 5. So for us in Gleim, onboarding for us is very important. One, we want to make sure that you know where everything is located in the Gleim system, because we don't want you missing out on a really great feature that's in there to help you study, right? We want you to know where everything is and be able to navigate freely. We also include our EA exam guide in there. And the EA exam guide is something that goes into a lot more detail, kind of what we've walked through here today, the requirements, what's covered, how it's tested, how to register. All of that is available in our EA exam guide, which you can access for free on the Gleim site. And we want you to be familiar with all of that information. So if you don't have your P10 or you don't know how to register, that's already built into the course so that you can check those boxes off as you go in and start studying. You don't want to be done and ready to go and then think, oh, shoot, I have to wait now for my P10, right? Also in that onboarding is our study planner. So I strongly encourage everyone to use the study planner because it is super helpful in keeping track of your studies. One, we have the little study planner here, so it kind of counts down your days so you know how many days you have left. I know that sounds a little bit looming, but it'll come faster than you can think. But it's also nice because you can put in there the amount of time you have to study and to stay on pace. And we will send you text reminders, we'll send you email reminders. You can set up phone calls from your personal counselors if you want. So you can get as much assistance from us as you want, or we can sit back and kind of let you do it if you need to. But the point is that 10 or 15 hours that you're studying per week does not need to be all on the same day or even all at the same time, right? So, for example, I'm a mom of 2 little boys, and I get no reprieve whatsoever. They're at school now, so they're not here, but 3 o'clock's like the witching hour. So they come in and it's just all sorts of loud. But for me, if I were studying for the exam, my peak hours would be from 9 or 9:30 at night until about midnight because I can study. The house is quiet. I'm uninterrupted. So if I'm planning on studying 3 hours on a Wednesday, I would probably do it all in one chunk at night. On a Sunday, if you've got 5 hours to study, it doesn't have to be 5 hours in a row. It could be an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon, and then 3 hours at night. As long as you're getting all those hours in for the week, that's what counts. The way you set it up in the study planner, it'll send you those reminders so that, hey, you've fallen off track, or hey, this study unit is coming up due, because we want to make sure you're getting through all the information. That's all present in the first pass, which I'll show you that in a moment when you go down into all the study materials that are available in every unit. But then you also get 2 unique mock exams in the Gleim system. So they're set up just like what you'll see at Prometric, the 100 multiple choice questions, 50 in section 1, 15 minutes, 50 in section 2. And we do that because we want you to pretend and immerse yourself in Prometric, sitting for 3.5 hours uninterrupted to see what your score would be. If you don't get the passing score that you need by chance, you can then unlock your final review mode, and then you can then move on to the second mock exam if you need to. So all of those are present and in there to kind of make sure that you are absolutely ready to go on exam day. Within the first pass, we have different study units. We break everything down into study units just to kind of show you what lies ahead, topic areas. But then we break those down even further into what we call subtopics so that it is a lot easier for you to read and digest or watch and digest the material than it is to just give you a whole big block of text and have you read through it, right? So in this example here, 3.1, 0.2, and 0.3, you've got 3 different subunits. Learning the topics, you can either read the outlines, you can watch the videos, you can do both. We have focus questions that will kind of tap into your reading or watching comprehension to make sure that you've understood what you've just read or watched. Just a couple of quick questions to tap into that. And then measuring your proficiency is super important because it's set up in exam conditions. So you'll have an adaptive multiple choice quiz, 20 questions, you'll go through, timers counting down so you're aware of your time. get your score at the end. And everything that you do in that adaptive area feeds into what we call the Gleim proficiency gauge, which is here. Anything in the red is obviously danger, danger, alert, alert. Everything in green is good to go. Obviously, you're good there. Right now, I'm rocking critical, so I'm not doing so spry. But this little overall proficiency gauge is super helpful, so you know where you are overall. But we have these on every single study unit as well, so that when you get to your final review mode, and maybe gross income is in the red zone for me, right? I might tackle all of those questions, rewatch those videos, do the flashcards, something else to resharpen or get up to speed there, and then move along. So I mentioned before with those areas where we had the number of questions that were present and not looking at, I'll tackle these because most questions are coming from there. This takes all of that out with the adaptive course telling you you're doing well here, move on, or you need more work here. All that guesswork is done. And it's stressful enough to study, right? So why not take some help and let us show you where you need to go? You've also got audio lectures, digital flashcards. Everything is tracked in performance. We want you to know how you're doing at any given point in time. Rapid review is kind of like the Cliff's Notes of the unit. So, for example, in the unit 3 that we just looked at, if there were 13 pages for all of unit 3, rapid review is going to condense everything down into those main important topics and put it all on 1 or 2 pages. So that's super helpful during a final review mode. Or we've had some folks that aren't crazy about reading and they'd rather watch the videos, but use that as a guide, so to speak. You can do that too. Test bank is, I think, where everybody falls in love, because we've got a giant bank of questions for you to create the types of practice that you want to create. You can do that in a unique, what we call study session, where you are getting answers and explanations right away. So as soon as you click on something, it tells you right away whether it's right, whether it's wrong. Those answers and explanations is what I think really helped with Gleim launching all of our review programs. Dr. Gleim was the first to launch those answer explanations. He always said he learned more from his mistakes, and it's really, truly helped candidates with studying for their exams and learning why something was right or why they got it wrong. So you're able to create and customize those test banks. This customizable test bank does not feed into the proficiency gauge. So we definitely still want you practicing in the adaptive, but the test bank is super helpful for doing that study mode and getting that immediate feedback. And then while we are a self-study program, we try to provide you with as much support as we can. So we do have, I mentioned, those personal counselors available. That's actually how I started at Gleim. I would talk with candidates about setting up their study plan, if they maybe weren't getting the scores they wanted in the system, and what we could do to bring those scores up. Sometimes you're a therapist. People just don't want to do the questions anymore. You're sad. I don't want to do the questions anymore. I can't look at another multiple choice question. We hear you. We feel you. So talking with candidates daily is something that's super helpful. You also have our accounting experts, so that if the explanations we provide in the course aren't enough, you can reach out to our accounting experts for extra assistance. And then while we want you passing the exam as soon as possible, we totally get that sometimes passing in a year isn't feasible, or passing in 2 years isn't feasible. So we have an access until you pass guarantee. You can extend that access out if you need it. It's kind of nice having that extra added insurance policy. And then we have Facebook study groups, printed books, everything that we basically just went through in the course. So there's lots and lots and lots of stuff in there. But I think, and usually encourage folks to try the course if you're not yet ready to roll. You don't know if it's going to be the best fit for you. We do have a free demo that you can log in and try the entire first unit, watch the videos. They're done by JT Egan. He's a accounting professor at Purdue. I actually was just talking with him earlier today. And he does all of our videos, and they're fabulous. His passion for taxation is infectious, so you certainly won't be bored by those videos. You've also got the audios in there, the digital flashcards, all that stuff's in there to try and make sure that you're ready to start your path on the enrolled agent. So I did promise at the beginning, as did Vicente, that we would take some questions if folks had them. So I wanted to leave some time for that. And hopefully we do have questions, unless I was super thorough and covered everything. I can't hear
Yeah,
you.
I love that. Thank you, Courtney. This the system is really good. I know we have a few reactions here in our social media platforms, and I don't know, maybe it's because I was following along very well. I understood it. But now we invite everybody that's either on either of the social media platforms to submit their question or here on the Zoom platform. But one of the you mentioned the question bank. Um, I know that usually with we don't know what which questions we're gonna get, but Gleim tries to get it as close as possible, or what's the right word I'm looking for? I don't want to sound like you guys know all the questions that are coming up, but at least
Oh,
formatted in that way, right?
yes. So knowing what is going to be tested on the exam, we have, worked with the IRS to kind of say they've written here's some sample questions. We've kind of used that as our blueprint, so to speak, to be able to
Mhm.
write our questions so that they look almost identical to what you see on the exam. We've had some feedback from folks. Of course, we have to be careful about the feedback that we get, but they've said that, I was in Prometric and I saw questions and I was like, I feel like I'm studying in a Gleim. And that's really what we want. We want you feeling like when you're in Prometric, you're sitting in that deep dark room where you did your mock exam for 3.5 hours, right?
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes we've heard from folks that they feel like our system is difficult. The questions are super hard, but I'll tell you, we need to make them hard because if they're super easy and you're hitting them out of the park and then you go to Prometric and you don't pass, you're like, well, that wasn't worth it. Like they didn't prepare me at all. So I mentioned that part two, that's the hardest, and folks coming back saying, like, oh yeah, part two is easier than part one. I'm like, was it though? Or did you just really study and do all those questions? I think it was that you just really studied and did everything. So
Yeah,
yeah.
which is a good problem to have, right? I
Yeah,
mean, a
right.
lot of us tend to kind of just skim, and I'm guilty of that. I'll just skim through the question, and like you said, take your time when I'm doing these practice questions and any quiz in general. Even when I'm doing my 20-hour California CE course, and I'm skimming through it, and I'm like, wait, I'm supposed to get this right. I know it, and then I didn't read the question correctly or thoroughly. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I see why I got it wrong. I just kind of read it over it. And like you said earlier, I was looking at question B because that's exactly what I thought it was going to be, but no, it happened to be a different answer. So I know I'm one of those people that are not patient while taking a quiz, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna start.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
are those are the mistakes that we want you making in our course though, so that you
Hmm.
don't make them when you've paid your money to Prometric, right? I mean, that's why it's in here. What I didn't mention in our test bank, there is an option when you're in there, and this is at Prometric too. I can't ever remember, I have to see it on the screen, but I think if you right click on your mouse, it will allow you to strike out. So you can strike out an answer that you know is like definitely not right. Like if you're reading and you're like, oh, A is totally not it. Like you can strike that out and it'll put a line through it. So you know, and it's a little bit easier for you to see. On the other hand, you're able to left click, I think it is, and it'll let you highlight words. So a lot of times the questions will say like without or not, or there's something in there that changes the meaning of what they're asking and
Hmm. Hmm.
it's tricky on purpose. You can do that so that when you're going through and skimming, you're like, oh, okay, I see that. And your eyes automatically go to it. So that is a feature that we have in the platform that is available in Prometric too. And I know a lot of folks have really benefited from those different features in the course. So I'm going to pop back real quick to our, the, help me, my brain's not braining. The QR code so that if
Yeah.
folks weren't able to scan at the beginning. My coworker says that all the time. My brain's not braining.
Yeah.
That yes, if folks came in a little bit after
Hmm.
and didn't get a chance to scan, we want to make sure that you have the option to do that so that I have I can pick winners. If I have a lot of registrants, I'll pick multiple winners, which is always a good thing because we like giving away free stuff.
Yeah,
But
for
there's an
sure.
option to do this. And if we didn't have any other questions after I leave this up, I will pop to the last screen, which shows our contact information so that if you maybe have questions later on or, didn't feel comfortable asking them or your brain wasn't braining like mine,
Yeah.
then you can always email and write them down.
Yeah, or usually I'll be like, my math isn't mathing right now, so
Yep.
that's usually when I'm trying to figure out the tip. I'm like, what is it?
It
I'm like, is it
happens.
at 18%? What?
It happens. And you know what's terrible is that we are so conditioned now for that immediate gratification when our brain doesn't work. I
Hmm.
usually try like to give myself a minute or two, like if I can't think of something before I automatically reach for like the lifeline, aka my
Hmm.
phone, to be like,
Hmm.
Google, what is this? Because I can't figure it out. So I know we all do that because we're all just
Yeah.
like, I'm so frustrated and can't
Hmm.
think of it. But the bad thing is you can't do that on the exam. So one of the other things that we encourage you to do, you get, I think, a fancy piece of paper and a pencil when you go into Prometric. They're
Hmm.
very generous there, right?
You
So,
sound like you're fading away a little bit. Your
oh no,
mic. There we
good,
go.
better, okay.
Uh,
So they give you a piece of paper and a pencil at Prometric, very generous. Um, if there's something that you need to remember, like an equation or a deduction or something like that, you can jot it all down on that piece of paper. And we encourage you to do that as soon as you get in there so it doesn't fleet. Because as you're going through, you might have that happen in the exam, like, oh, I know the deduction and I can't remember what it, but if you wrote it down, then you're good to go and you can kind of tap back into that to help answer that question. So that's another little fun testing tip
yeah, for
from
sure.
Courtney.
And then, yeah, definitely tips and items that you definitely want to have as essential for this exam. And this is a lot of great information, especially for all of us who haven't taken even one single exam at Prometric Testing Center. Well, actually, I took when it was back in the day. What was it? RTRP.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
yeah, that was fun. Um,
that was fun.
but
Very fun.
uh, but for the enrolled agent one, like the rest of us that are just thinking about it and not doing it. One of the things that I did want to highlight that I like a lot is that flashcard uh type helpful tool in the in your account. It's really great. I'm gonna admit, I mean, I don't use it as often as I should, but when I do go in and I'm sitting down, I'm like, okay, I don't have kids right now around me, so I have all the time in the world sometimes.
Well, so what we'll need to do is try to figure out when there's a gap in the schedule to have
Yeah.
you sit and plan. And then once you get that first part done, you're almost forced to stay on pace because
Hmm.
if you end up losing credit, you're like, oh, I lost credit. So it's easier to stay on pace once you get that first one done. It's kind of like when my kids try to encourage me to jump in the pool, like because the
Hmm.
pool's too cold and I kind of want to ease in. They're like, just jump
Hmm.
in. You just gotta plunge
Just
right
do
on
it,
in.
right? Yeah.
And then you're in there, and then you're like, it's freezing. But then you're like, it's fine.
Well, do you
Everything's
guys
good.
still have this keep talking about keeping you accountable? I
Hmm.
think that's more my problem that I don't have a way to hold myself accountable. I'll be like, yeah, I'll do it later because we're planning for Latino Tax Fest, we're planning for trips, events, and we're doing this and that, and on top of that, managing the sales team and then being in meetings. I had to really determine the time, but I know you guys had this tool. I don't know if it's still available, where you would schedule your times to study and you'd get
Yeah.
a text messages, email reminders. Is that still
Hmm.
something that's available?
Yep, that's the study planner. I had mentioned that in the course, so that's one of our very first things in the onboarding, and we encourage everyone to use that. I'm a big proponent of the study planner because I know, at least for me, if I don't write things down or if I don't put them in my phone to send me different notices, I won't remember to do it. So
Yeah, for
I
sure.
just won't.
Yeah,
My
no,
husband's better. He makes to-do lists and he looks at that to-do list daily. And I'm like, how the heck do you do that? Like I would write it and then forget like where I put it. I'm the worst. So I have to have something send me text notices or send me email reminders,
Mhm.
something to, ping me and get my attention. Otherwise it goes to no man's land.
That
So
yeah, that's how I forgot. Excuse, I'm gonna admit to this right in live on Facebook and forgetting my little girl's parent teacher conference because I didn't put it in my calendar. And all of a sudden I get a text message like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "At work." Well, what do you mean? I have a parent-teacher conference today. I was like, "Okay, why don't you tell me?" It's like, "Yeah, I did." Read your text messages, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I even confirmed." I said, "Yep, I'm gonna put it in my calendar," and I didn't do it. So I was like, "My bad. Can I buy you ice cream?"
Gonna buy off the teacher. That might
Yeah,
be bad.
yeah,
No, it happens. It happens to all of us. We're all busy. We're all doing a lot of different things. So anything that we can do to help, is something that we definitely want to do. So I did put the contact us slide up here so that if anybody thought of questions later on, that's the contact information for Gleim. If you aren't already following Gleim on LinkedIn, you should. I say that because we always post a lot of great information on there about updates to the exam, any new changes that are coming. If we host different types of webinars and things like that, all of that information is present on there, and it's just a great way to kind of stay in the know. I imagine that Vicente, you guys have things like that too. Like you have like blogs and different postings and things that are being updated. So it's always good to, be aware of what's happening, right?
yeah.
Even if
All
it's
the
not
tools and
something,
resources.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. Now, I'm looking it up right now. Courtney in LinkedIn is a Gleim Exam Prep.
Hmm.
That's the one. All right.
Yep.
I'm gonna copy. Actually, I myself, I'm starting to follow it in my own LinkedIn account. And I'm gonna put it in our Facebook in the comments. Let me put it here in the chat too, um, so that everybody can let me know if it's that one or
Hmm.
my
Yep.
distributing wrong information, false information.
No, I think you're okay.
Okay.
If you guys don't have any more questions or any questions for me, then I'm gonna let folks roll and enjoy the rest of their Wednesday. It's still
Yeah.
Wednesday, right?
Yeah, still
Okay.
Wednesday. At least
Okay.
on this side too.
I am
Uh,
I'm starting to kind of forget the days. The kids have like 2 more weeks left of school, and I'm just kind of like, how did we get here? But
mhm.
they're all sorts of jazzed up because 2 more weeks for them is like summer woohoo, and I'm over here like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, it's summer. I don't know how we're
Yeah.
gonna make this happen, but
Just when those days start running together, right?
yes,
You're like, well, what day is it?
yes,
If my alarm doesn't go off, that means I'm not going to work. Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. That's how I see it.
pretty
But
much.
for sure. So yeah, we're definitely looking forward to having also Gleim come out to our Latino Tax Fest. This is June 16th through the 19th at the MGM Grand. Will you be there, Miss Courtney?
Yes.
Yes. Last year
Yep.
you were there. It was great. A lot of great information.
Oh, so fun. Best conference. It was so fun.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so we're definitely looking forward to that. This year we're having new things as well. Actually, this kind of tied in perfectly, Courtney, and I probably should have started with this, and I just remembered because I just saw that we're sold out for our what we are calling our advanced track, and this is for people that are learning how to they want to learn how to do corporation taxes, filling them out, doing them line by line. That's what we're going to be doing there. So this is tying in perfectly to this. We already have this partnership, but we want to really leverage it more. We want people to be aware of the partnership between Gleim and Latino Tax Pro. And we always get, what's next in my career? What should I do next? And this is where Gleim comes in. You should become an enrolled agent and really start practicing it because that opens up different avenues like tax resolution, representation, let alone having the credibility of having this credential in your next to your name, enrolled agent. So I think it's amazing. It's great if this is something that you're looking for long term. So we're glad to have you as a partner. Um, Gleim and Courtney, especially Courtney, because you deal with us, you have to deal with, hey, Courtney, what do we do now? So,
I love it. I've been with you
yeah.
guys for a really long time, so
So,
it's super nice.
and congratulations on those almost 15 years now.
Oh my gosh.
I know it sounds just 15. It sounds like nothing, but it's just the trajectory that sounds like you've been there as long as I've been here too at Latino Tax
Hmm.
Pro. So I've been here for about 15 years as well, 14,
Yeah.
15. So I don't know. I lost count the moment I started clocking in.
Well, I kind of fell in love with the company because of their, the mission, just seeing kind of Dr. Gleim's passion to just help people achieve, their accounting certifications. He actually does aviation too, which I was kind of like, accounting and aviation. What is that? I don't know much about aviation at all. But then, the company being a small family owned and operated company in Gainesville, they're super wonderful.
Mhm.
I mean, they've seen me through a marriage, they've seen me through two kids. Like they're so super wonderful about anything. I'm like, hey, can I not go to this because my son's birthday? And they're like, yeah, sure. Like I mean, they're amazing. And they
Yeah.
really honestly care about having folks pass the exam. It's not just here's your system and, be on your way.
And good luck.
Yeah, no, they really don't. And I mean, our personal counselors will get, emails and thank you cards and thank you so much for coaching me and thank you. And that I mean, we love all of that. It's truly awesome. It really is.
Alrighty, yeah. So if there's any other questions for Miss Courtney, and you didn't get a chance to get her information, this is recorded and will stay in our Facebook live or Facebook page video under the video section, or you can email me directly or email us at info@latinotaxpro, and I will make sure that Courtney gets the information and gets you an answer. For the most part, if there's anything else, hopefully everybody had a great tax season and is ready for the next one. I know we just ended it, but still.
Love
Um,
it.
all righty. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Courtney, for this great information. Wait. Oh, I thought I saw somebody raise their hand. I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. We have a few minutes, but sounds good. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and I hope everybody has a good day. Any last words, Miss Courtney?
See everybody in Vegas.
See you guys in Vegas. All righty. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.